Hello, and welcome back to Alice Talks Football, and welcome back to another live Manchester United news show. In today's show, we will be discussing the Europa League draw earlier, but the main story we're going to be talking about is Berrada's warning. Berrada's message to the leaker has then been leaked by the leaker, but leakers will be sacked. Enough is enough. You leak information, you're kicked out. Berrada sending a strong message as the leaks investigation hits a new level. Young players that will be involved tomorrow have been revealed as the under-21 squad has been released. Chido and Kone set to be in the squad. Injury boost with Agate and Yoro coming back in. Amorim talks about a few of United's issues in his press conference in the training. We're going to talk about Kenda, the transfer news, takeover latest with the Glazers with Ratcliffe, and some more updates on Paul Pogba having a potential return to Manchester United. So there's quite a bit of news and information to discuss in today's video. So I do want to dive right into it. We'll get into the live chats as well and all of that. But big up everybody. I hope you're having a good Friday evening and you have a good weekend. And well, to be honest, Man United are the first game tomorrow. So, you know, if Man United want to get a nice win and give us a much nicer weekend, that'll be great. So, I saw this. This is the road to Bilbao, and I'm just going to ask quickly, like, what are your general thoughts on this? Now, I think that actually AZ Alkmaar have been really good lately, but I'd have rather had AZ Alkmaar than Real Sociedad if I was going to be completely honest, just because we just don't have the best luck against Spanish teams when it comes to knockout, like Sevilla, obviously the final against Villarreal. That I am a little bit nervy about Real Sociedad, although Real Sociedad haven't been particularly good this season. I think the best two clubs outside United and Tottenham are Lazio and Athletic Club, I think, in there. So we sort of avoided them for a little bit there. We play the winner of FSSB versus Lyon, so I think that could be Lyon in the quarter. But I you know what, like we should be able to go far in the Europa League. I say that, but we should be able to beat Real Sociedad. We should be able to beat Lyon. I think if we played Athletic Club in the semis, it's maybe a difficult game. But Ole Gunnar Solskjaer absolutely destroyed them with was it Galatasaray? So not Galatasaray, Fenerbahce. So you never know. Fenerbahce nerves me. I can't lie. Is it which one does Ole manage? Ole's Besiktas. Sorry, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer manages Besiktas. Josie manages Fenerbahce. Galatasaray, the team that causes problems. I always get who manages who mixed up in Turkey as well. And it's the same fans writing stuff against Sociedad. I mean, I'd rather have been against AZ Alkmaar, but to be honest, I think we could beat Sociedad. The thing about United is I feel like the games that are harder we're doing better in, and the games that are easier we're doing awful in. Now, Real Sociedad are a very mid team, so they're very much in the mid. So it's like a Fulham, and we beat Fulham. That's the way I see it. So yeah, it's all going to be an easy game, Real Sociedad, but it's over two legs, and hopefully we could see something from United and the squad. But I think if Ahmad was fit, you'd feel a bit more confident about it. But sadly, Ahmad is not fit as well. Ollie's at Besiktas. I knew it was Besiktas. I was like, wait, Fenerbahce, no, it's Galatasaray, Fenerbahce, Besiktas. I always get them bloody mixed up in my head as well. But yeah, I feel like it's not going to be easy. It's the Europa League. It's not going to be easy at all. There's times where we think we could win it and we don't. But I'd say we've got a good opportunity here. If we go out to Real Sociedad, I'd be disappointed. But if we can get to the semi-final and maybe we'd have I think the other side, Athletic Club or someone, I think, you know, I'd like to, you know, not be out in the first round as well. Roma versus Fenerbahce is written like a script. It definitely is as well. People saying no way you're beating Real Sociedad. I'm just worried about the Spanish sides. I'm worried about the Spanish sides. We haven't lost a single game in Europe, but we haven't looked good. This is the thing. We haven't looked good or convincing, but we haven't lost any games. We've had a few draws. Jose will get revenge against Roma, Spurs and United all in one tournament. I'd like a Spurs United final. Two teams that probably be desperate at the end of the season to somewhat save their season with the Europa League. But the main thing I wanted to talk about was there's a couple of stories in regards to Omar Berrada. So I want to get into these few stories. And the problem Manchester United have had with club leagues. And then we'll discuss Europa League and more. So, this is what has been said via Mike McGrath. Omar Berrada launched an investigation into the leaks and warned staff in an email that disclosing information about the club would be considered a serious misconduct and could result in their dismissal. So Omar Berrada has warned members of staff and people at Manchester United, if you leak information, you will be sacked, you will be gone. And this is the kind of sacking and cost cutting I'm not going to complain about. Now, funny enough, it's not funny, but you know what I mean. The letter has been leaked. So Berrada emailed people a letter saying, if you leak information, you'll be sacked. And someone has read that letter and still leaked the letter out, which is pretty ridiculous when you actually think about it, because it's like someone's playing with fire here. But this was Berrada's email to United staff. Anyone disclosing information outside the club or is breaching their obligations of confidentiality. And we are very clear this will be considered gross misconduct. To protect the club and its colleagues, additional measures are being put in place to prevent further breaches of confidentiality and also identify any persons responsible. So what Manchester United are essentially doing is they're putting surveillance on the leaks. They're cracking down on the leaks. And if you are caught, it's not a warning, you are gone. You are sacked. It's misconduct. We know that Ruben Amorim apparently behind the scenes had very strong words with the players about information it being leaked, and if anybody is caught leaking information, it could be up for them at Manchester United, it could be over for them at Manchester United. We know the players have had a strong talking to about leaks, but as I've told you guys multiple times if you've watched my live streams, a lot of the leaks aren't coming from players. Everyone was going, oh, Garnacho's the leak, Rashford's the leak. No. It's not who you think that is leaking information. A lot of the leaks comes from members of staff within the club as well. So Berrada has warned the staff, if you leak information, you are gone, you are sacked. And that's what United need to do. We need to stop these team leaks coming out 24 hours before a game. The whole team news is being leaked out. All that does is give our opponent an advantage. And that's happened 3 times this season. I mean, I got a leak off someone about the team news versus Brighton way before the Brighton game, like the night before. The fact that it gets put out there, the opponents can see that and have a slight advantage about it. Obviously, the Manchester City team league was the worst because Samuel Luckhurst had got it and actually put it out. But anyone disclosing information outside the club is breaching the obligations of confidentiality, and Berrada has said, you will be sacked. And he's essentially just told everyone, you leak this, you leak that, you will be sacked, you will be gone. And I think that's what you need to do. Because sometimes the sackings at United seem unfair, but that is a very fair sacking as well. We've heard this threats against leakers for years. Only leaks they can identify are from Old Trafford roof, says Alex. And Alex, you're actually spot on. I mean, comment of the day, yeah. That's the problem. We've had leaking issues. We've warned the leakers all this time. And we just continue to have leaks. And the only ones we seem to identify are the ones in the club as well. Toxic leakers obviously getting paid for information. Well, journalists will pay certain people, for information as well. But that's why I don't think it's the players. The players don't need the money. It's the staff that need the money. That's why I think a lot of the leaks is to do more with staff than players as well. They'd sack a normal worker. They won't sack a player. I wish it was Casemiro. The problem is if they sack Casemiro, they still got to give him 18 million buyout for the year in his contract, which is probably what they don't want to do, because we'd lose a lot of money as well. I think that's why it's more difficult. But maybe there's a way that there's a clause that if you break certain rules that United can sack you without having to pay out your contract. Maybe there's a clause somewhere. You never know. But they have tried to find the leakers for ages, and I don't think they'll identify them. A lot of members of staff are going in. There's a lot of warnings and turnovers, so maybe we'll get less leaks. And also some of the leaks you just know are probably journalists making it up for some clicks and a story as well. If we go at Europa, even more negativity will creep in. Need to stay in mind. Yeah, I mean, Europa League, we'll talk about that later on as well. If we go out early, there's going to be more leaks. The thing is, it's mad. If we lose games and we go out of competitions like Europa League and FA Cup in the next round, there's going to be leaks left, right and centre surrounding Manchester United. Berrada has every right to threaten whoever's leaking the team news. I agree. And even some of the leaks to the journalists about, who leaked out that Amorim had lost his shit so badly in the changing room after the Brighton game. He smashed the TV. He kicked chairs and tables. Like, at the end of the day, it's sometimes quite interesting to know that information. But, like, who is leaking out about, so not Berrada, Amorim, who is leaking out that Ruben Amorim went mental at the Man United players after Brighton and smashed the TV? Like, how is that information being leaked out? Like, it makes an interesting story, of course, and we love to read that. But as viewers, not in like a we love to read that in that's a good thing. But that's news. You're like, wow, Ruben Amorim, he's strict. But this shouldn't be getting leaked out that Ruben Amorim is chucking things in the dressing room and screaming at players and making a player cry. There's too much leaks. It's like everything that goes down in this club, we know. We hear about incidents with Fergie and Beckham and the boot and this and that. But everything in the last few years that's gone down in United, Amorim smashing the TV, Amorim making this player cry, it's everywhere. And it's like we need to get a bit of a hush-hush on that. Because it's like nothing can happen without the media finding out as well. It's like that Joseph season. Europa kept positivity when our Premier League form was poor. Yeah, the Europa is keeping the positivity. If we can win the Europa League or at least win the FA Cup, at least it gives us something this season to be happy about. Like 10-0 last year. Last year was crap, but we won the FA Cup, so at least we had something good about it. If we crash out of the cup, like if we lose to Fulham and lose to Sociedad, I'm not going to be happy about the rest of the season. That's the season over. At least we've got something still to play for this season as well. I believe Ineos will take Arteta's approach with Amorim and give him what he wants. They'll be patient since he's their first manager signing. Do you think that? I don't know how patient Ineos will be. There is rumours of Ineos looking elsewhere, but they're not from credible sources, so I don't believe those rumours that Ineos looking elsewhere. But I don't know how patient Ineos will be with Amorim, because one thing we know about Ineos and Nice is it's sack a manager, sack this, sack this, sack that. Ineos, if anything, don't have a patient approach, whereas Dan Ashworth did. And one of the main reasons Dan Ashworth was sacked is because he didn't get along with everybody at Ineos, because Dan Ashworth has always been a bit more patient in his approach to things compared to Ineos, or a bit more lenient, or a bit more open to giving time to this than giving time to that. So Ineos had someone that normally make quite impulsive decisions, and Brailsford is now got a bigger role because Dan Ashworth's been sacked, and Brailsford doesn't really know anything about football. That's the frustrating thing about the Dan Ashworth sacking, is Brailsford, that's a cyclist guy, has now got a bigger role in the major decisions at United, and I'd much rather Dan Ashworth be making those decisions than Brailsford. That's one thing that worries me. Did the investigation end when someone recorded the United dressing room when playing at Villa? What do you mean? I don't know what you mean. If you're referring to Rashford, Rashford's not the leaker, and we've known that for ages. Rashford's left the club and we're still getting leaks. I told you Rashford's not the leaker, Garnacho's not the leaker. It's more likely to be staff than players, because they are the ones that probably need the money more as well. Amorim was known to be super friendly and close with his squad, so this club could break anyone. Yeah, Amorim was known for having a great relationship with his players at Sporting. Now, the one thing I do say is it's not Amorim's squad, so maybe when it's Amorim's squad, he's going to have a great relationship with them, whilst it was Ten Hag's squad, and Ten Hag fell out of a lot of the players he signed. Ruben Amorim's only brought in and signed Dorgu. It's not Ruben Amorim's squad, but Ruben Amorim is someone that is known to be friendly and get on with his players and have a close connection with them. Will United be the team that stops that? Will he be able to form that connection to the players? We know now, and this was actually leaked out, that Ruben Amorim isn't particularly close with any of the United players other than Delô and Bruno because of the Portuguese connection, but he's still not wanting to get too close to certain players because he wants to view them in sort of a neutral way. Ruben Amorim apparently is actually being more distant because he knows a lot of these players won't be here next year and he's not trying to get too close to them. So again, it was reported that Ruben Amorim is deliberately being a bit more distant from the Man United squad because this isn't his squad and he wants to get his players in. Maybe in 2 years' time, when it is a Ruben Amorim filled squad and he's had, 10 new players in 10 years' time, it's a bit of a different situation. But I know what you mean. Ruben Amorim is a manager that's known to be friendly, it's known to be close with his squad, and he seems more distant with the United squad. I think Amorim's safe. I think unless it's we finished 1 point above the relegation zone or we get relegated, I do think that Amorim will be safe as well. Ineos will be royally screwed if they sack Amorim. Financially, it would set us back a bit. They could sack Amorim in the summer because his only signing's Dorgu, and Dorgu could still play in the back forward, still play as a right winger. But it's financially, if you spent 15 million to bring in Amorim, 15 million to sack him, and then 15 million on a new manager, it's basically, if you sack Amorim, that's one less summer signing. So because 40 million summer signing, if that's what happens if you sack Amorim. So they could sack Amorim in the summer. It's possible, and there could be someone out there in the summer that they think is worth sacking Amorim for, but it would cost us the signing financially, and I think it would be too rash to go from manager to manager to manager. I don't think Ruben Amorim will be sacked. I think he will be saved, and I think this is Ineos' first manager. As mentioned earlier, I think they'll want to back him. They brought in Ruben Amorim for a reason. They clearly rate him, although that being said, why didn't they bring him in the summer? If they rated him that much, why did they keep Ten Hag the summer when Ruben Amorim was available? Who knows? And why were they saying to Ruben Amorim, if he doesn't come mid-season, he won't get the job? Was there someone available at the end of the season they like more than Amorim? Maybe they don't rate him that much, but they clearly wanted him. They were clearly willing to pay for him. So it would be ridiculous to sack Ruben Amorim in the summer. Even if it's not been convincing, even if we haven't got better, they've got to back Ruben Amorim. They've got to bring in that wing back. They've got to bring in that left centre back. They've got to bring in that midfielder, that left 10, that striker. If you can get Cunha, Schlotterbeck, I don't know, Kenda, good midfielder and a good striker. And, this time next year we're not doing well, we could have conversations about Amorim in his future. But I think for now, Amorim is safe. I think you can't judge Amorim until he's had 5 signings come in. And if we're seeing, if we're not seeing progress this time next year and he had 5 good signings come in, that's when the question marks will be there. But Amorim has to get the summer. He has to get the summer window. He's got to be backed by Ineos. You can't sack 2 managers in one season. It would be crazy. Seemed like a bit of tension in the latest press conference. Eriksen's tension? I don't think so. I think the media just probably trying to make something out of nothing. I think he was just clarifying his comments on Eriksen. There's not an issue there as well. Pick up Alice. I just subscribed to your channel. You're so good at analysing your team. I'm an Everton fan and I have massive respect to Man United. I hate that you guys are in this situation. I appreciate that, Emmanuel. Nice comment from you. Yeah, Man United and Everton. You're above us actually. Big game tomorrow as well. But you guys are above us, which, yeah. Everton are a club that deserve better as well, the last few years. You're one of the bigger clubs in the league. Ruben has to build team spirit. I agree, and I think that's something he's struggling with, but I think every manager's struggling with that. If you're not getting results, you can't really build team spirit. That's one of the things as well that's sort of linked to results as well. Who knows? Ineos pretty random with the management. That's why I say, even though there's reports that Amorim isn't safe, but I think Amorim is safe. Like, I'm 90% sure Amorim's here in the summer, but there is a 10% of me that wouldn't be shocked if something happened just because of what Ineos are known to be like, and obviously things aren't going well. Yes, we need a Roy Keane in midfield. We do. Owners and hierarchy leak also, especially when they want to throw a gaffer under the bus and push their own agendas. Yeah, whenever things go wrong, leaks come out. Now, I will say this, and I was told this by a journalist, and I've said this multiple times on the channel, but journalists might get information. So journalists back in June, before pre-season, under Ten Hag, got information. And they would get this information in pre-season, in July, sorry. But obviously everyone had good moods in July and a few new signings had come in. Everyone was quite positive. As soon as sort of it looked crap again in August, a lot of the leaks that came out in July, they would just put it out, in October. So September and October, journalists were leaking information, but journalists have been storing this information in July, but they wouldn't release those leaks back in July because everything seemed positive and happy at United because we were signing players. They only went and leaked the information in sort of September, October after we'd lost a few games and people started to turn on Ten Hag again. You've also got to remember that, the leaks are deliberately timed by journalists and they could be months old, and that could not be the situation as well. They can't sack him. How can you get a manager with a style of play? Don't give him the players and sack him. I agree. I don't think they would sack him. I think it would be silly, but Ineos have sacked a lot of managers. Ruben Amorim plays a very different style of play to Ten Hag. He's a back 5 manager. He's very set on his principles. Look what his principles did at Sporting. It won them a league title. It got them top of the Champions League group just before he left. You have to back Ruben Amorim in the summer. You have to get recruitment support. And if they went and got Ruben Amorim, 5 top players that were perfect for his system, and we have luck with injuries next season, I think Ruben Amorim could do big things as well. Dressing room leak from audio recording when United played Villa. Was there? I don't remember that. I'll have to look that up later. If your central midfield is solid and we'll play better going forward and defending, I think, it's not helped having Agate out last game and Collier out last game. What do you think our best midfield 2 is? We thought it was Maino and Agate, but I don't think Maino suits a midfield 2. I think he's better in a midfield 3. Is it Bruno and Agate? But then we don't have someone that's maybe natural with their back to go on the ball. Is it Collier and Bruno? Collier and Agate? Like, what do you think? What would you say our best midfield duo is? Just wondering your guys' thoughts. Alice, one thing that was good is Amorim came in mid-season, so he knows who's who. He knows who is. Are you saying basically the one good thing about Amorim coming in mid-season is he gets like a few months to know the players, learn about the players, and figure which ones he wants gone and what he needs in. He's got longer to figure that out. Whereas if he came at the end of the season, he's not spent time with the squad to know who works, who doesn't work. So I get the one good thing about Ruben Amorim coming mid-season, even though we didn't back him really in January, is he's got an opportunity to learn our players. So we're going to have a much better idea and understanding of what we need to do in the summer, who works, who doesn't work as well. I'm assuming that's what you mean as well. 6 managers at Nice, love sacking managers. Sir Jim does not know how to run a football club like Glazers. That's the one thing about Ineos. And this is why Ashworth probably didn't work well with them, because Ashworth is more be patient. Let's try and make the environment right for the manager. Whereas Ineos have always been a sacking manager type thing at Nice. That's one thing we need to be careful about. Nice are third though, so after a while it worked. And that's the one thing I look at. I go, obviously, you've got to undo 20 years of glaze and mess. A lot of the bad decisions Ineos are making, when I say bad decisions, more controversial decisions Ineos are making, is purely due to the fact that the Glazers run this club so badly for 20 years that Ineos have got to make some controversial decisions to get the club back on track. And it's not going to take 1 year, it's not going to take 2 years to fix the club. We can't really judge Ineos till we're 4 or 5 years down the line because it is a long-term thing. But we can criticise things we're seeing. I'm just going to open my window because it's boiling right now. Yeah, so my room, I'm literally I'm really hot right now. It's really hot in my house. So I was literally going to pass out. So I just opened a room there. Sorry, the window there. But I think, we can be critical of Ineos. And I have been critical of Ineos, and I don't like some of the decisions. I don't like the way they've gone about things, but we can't fully judge them and call them Glazers 2.0 until they've been here for 4-ish years, because they've got to undo 20 years of mess, and they are taking the heat for the Glazers. I'm a bit worried about Ineos. I'm not the biggest fan of some of the decisions they've made. I like some decisions they've made. I've not liked others, but they are taking the heat for the Glazers, and they're having to make big calls because of how badly the Glazers run this club for 20 years. And they are investing money to hopefully get us back on track. So it's too early to judge, but I think we can say we have concerns, we have worries. I think we can be critical, but it's too early to judge for sure. Agate and Maynard for me, Agate and Collier and Agate. Agate, Cass. I mean, under Ruben Nistelrooy, that worked very well. Agate, Bruno, Agate, Collier. A lot of people like an Agate, Collier, and I guess that would allow us to push Bruno further up. I think with no Ahmad, we ideally want Agate and Collier fit, because with no Ahmad, I think we probably want Bruno higher up. So we've at least got one creative player higher up. We've got too many 10s and not enough 8s. I mean, I think Bruno's more of a 10 and Maino's more of a 10, but they are playing as 8s. I think Agate and Collier are the only ones that we can guarantee are natural 8s as well. Agate and Collier, because the midfield is much more centred in both defensive and offensive, which is fair. A lot of people saying that. Agate, Casemiro and Bruno tend to replace Ahmad, Xerxes 9 and Garnacho to run off them both. It could work. Ericsson could play as a 10 potentially. Maino at the moment, he can't sense danger and loses his mark. I love playing the ball backwards. I just think Maino's struggling with the system. I think Maino in a midfield 3 compared to a midfield 2 is a big difference. I think Maino's struggling with the system. Again, he's injured. He's not had a nice season with injuries. The one thing that worries me about the appointment of Ruben Amorim is Maino, Yoro, and Garnacho are 3 players that don't 100% suit Ruben Amorim's system. And back in the summer, we were saying we wanted to build the team around Maino, Yoro, and Garnacho. And then you've got a manager that doesn't get the best out of Maino, Yoro, or Garnacho in his system. And these are the young players you built for the future. And that's the one big question around the Ruben Amorim appointment I have from Ineos. Just saying, you were saying that these guys are the main man. You were saying these guys are the main man to build around. Sorry, they're the future, but you've brought in a manager that actually system doesn't suit these players. That's my one biggest concern, I think, in regards to Amorim. Someone said, as long as we don't get relegated, I don't care. Season's over for me. Fairs, but I would like a trophy to get us back in Europe next season. It gives us more money to spend in the summer and puts us in a better position in the window. Agate needs another mobile, physical centre mid next to him who can dictate play. Yeah. Do you know who would have been really good to play with Agate? It's Nico Gonzalez that's just gone to City. But if you can get a Stiller or someone next to Agate, that would be good. Because Agate can do the dirty work, but you're going to need someone that's good on the ball naturally to play next to Agate and cover the ground as well. Someone said, do you think Maino could be in the summer market? Potentially. I think Garnacho is more likely to go than Maino as things are as well. Concern with Ineos, their approach seems to be that of low mid-table clubs, more concerned about balancing books than performances. It does seem very financially based, and I know we've got to balance the club financially to help us on the pitch, but it does feel like we're a 15th place side right now, and the focus at the top seems to be more on the finances of we'll get Rashford out and not replace him because that's going to help the finances. There is those kind of concerns as well. Euros seem like a panic buy because Real Madrid are interested. Well, Euro's a top level talent, but he's best in the back 4, and we've now brought him to play in the back 3 as a wide centre back or central centre back when he's always been a back 4 centre back. I think it's just shown that we were maybe a bit impulsive to bring Ruben Amorim in because things were going bad under Ten Hag and we were desperate to save the season and maybe didn't think about the fact that Ruben Amorim has a completely different style of play and that he's not going to just walk in and save the season. I look at Maino, I look at Garnacho, I look at Euro, 3 players in August that were seen as untouchable, seen as the future. You've now brought in a manager that doesn't get the best out of those. Maybe Euro can adapt, maybe Maino can adapt, maybe Garnacho can adapt, but they're all best suited to a 4-3-3. I think that's the one worry with the approach of Ineos rushing to get Ruben Amorim in because he was the best manager that was available mid-season. Could they have just kept with Ruud to the end of the season and then in the summer actually assess managers and maybe brought someone into the 4-3-3 that suits the squad better? Now, that's not me saying I don't want Amorim. I do want Amorim. I like Amorim. I think Amorim could do amazing things with this club if we get recruitment right. I think he's a fantastic manager. But what I'm saying is, could we have kept Ruud van Nistelrooy to the end of the season, then in the summer looked at more 4-3-3 managers? You could argue, though, maybe it's best to go to a back five and the manager that plays a back five for a change, because maybe that puts us in a position where we actually are going to have a complete rebuild. If we do a 4-3-3, a lot of the same players will play and they more suit the system. Maybe having a completely new manager means we can completely change the system and overhaul this club. There's many ways that you can look at it as well. Now, I do want to talk about the Everton game in a second and team news ahead of the Everton game. So we're going to dive into that as well. And then I will get into some transfer news. But I wanted to just quickly cover, obviously, what Berrada had been saying. So Nathan Salt has said exclusive, understand that Harry Amash, Jack Morehouse and Jack Fletcher all with the under-21 squad tonight away at Chelsea. And that's a big game. All 3 were on the first team bench at Spurs, but a reshuffle is due at Everton tomorrow. And the reason those 3 are back is because the 3 coming in is Euro, Maino, Agate. Euro, Maino and Agate will take Amas, Morehouse and Fletcher's place in the squad. As Robbo said here, that means Harrison, Kone and Obi is still with the first team, it seems. I'd argue we need more 10 options, Fletcher, Morehouse, Lacey. Don't rush him because Lacey's just come back from injury. But I'm sure Amorim has a plan. And that's the one thing I agree with. I look at Scanlon, I look at Morehouse, I look at Lacey and I look at Fletcher, and all of those players can play in the 10. I still think we had lack of players in the 10. Because we've got Bruno and I assume Agate that's going to be in the pivot. Maybe Ericsson can play 10. Xerxes can play 10. Garnacho can play 10. But that's it. I do think I would have liked to have seen one of Fletcher, Morehouse, Lacey or Scanlon potentially on the bench for that 10 role, because I think that's where we're limited because of Ahmad's injury. I think if Collar and Agate are available, you can play Bruno 10, but we can't play Bruno 10 because he doesn't want to play Casemiro. And Ericsson will only play 10 in Amorim's system now because he hasn't got the mobility. So that's the only question. I think maybe we could have kept a 10. But Kone and Obi will be involved in the squad tomorrow. I don't know if they'll play or get minutes, but they'll be involved. But with the way Hoyland's been playing, you can't rule out maybe a 10-minute cameo for Chido if things continue. Godwalker Conke, yeah, one talent to watch, but I think Aiden Heaven sort of takes Godwalker Conke's spot in that United squad right now because he's a bit older and a bit more experienced. And I think with obviously Martinez's injury, Aiden Heaven is definitely going to have a debut very soon. Very, very soon. Bruno has far too much work to do if we play the same system as last week. I felt sorry for Bruno because he runs so much that sometimes he gets the ball and you can just see that Bruno is absolutely tired and knackered. And I think that's sometimes where that pass doesn't come off for him. I think if we weren't relying on Bruno to press like a headless chicken and do so much running and so much work, we'd see an even better Bruno at United. So let's continue on into some more news and some more stories ahead of the Everton game. Agate, Ericsson and Yora have been confirmed available for the Everton game. That was confirmed by Amorim, which is a big boost there. I'd like Lenny Yoro left centre-back. I think he could do that role well. Ruben Amorim was then asked about the game in a press conference and asked about training and everything going on. And he said he felt that this week was really good. He felt things in training and he hopes tomorrow we can show a much better performance. He said they're improving, they're creating relationships, and even the sound of training is different, but we have to use that in the game and we have to take that step. I feel in training we are bonding and understanding the way we want to play, but then in a game we struggle a lot. So Ruben Amorim's happy with what he's seen in training, and I really want to see what Ruben Amorim's been seeing in training on the pitch. I want to see Manchester United play Everton, beat Everton, but in a convincing performance. We weren't convincing when we beat Fulham. The only convincing win we've had this season was Everton at home. So I want to see a convincing performance from Manchester United where we can beat Everton and we can show elements of Amorim's system and what he's done in training. Because we could be good in training, but if we're not implementing it on the pitch, there's no point as well. Bruno was playing like 3 roles. Yeah, we're asking Bruno to do way too much. Ericsson could only play 10, and with Amorim and is our best passer. I would have placed Garnacho with Ericsson and bring Garn off the bench. Garnacho off the bench is great for intensity, but the big problem is if Ericsson and Xerxes are the 10s, we lack the intensity there, and we might be a bit more static, but I do think they are better on the ball. It's trying to find that balance. But I do think that Garnacho is so much better when he comes off the bench, when he's fresh, running at tired legs as well. People don't research enough, just follow names mentioned by press. Morehouse is the next strongest to bridge the gap. Calm, technical, strong, drives games. Morehouse, yeah, is a player that doesn't get the hype of other players at Man United, but he's a fantastic talent. He was really good in the under-21s game versus Southampton, which Ruben Amorim went to go and watch with Jason Wilcox. Very good ball carrier, could be a Morgan Rogers type player, which is the type of player that we need profile-wise. I think Morehouse has potential to be that player that we need if you look at his profile. Ineos have obviously underestimated the difficulty of implementing a 4-3-3. They've overestimated Amorim and the players, says Bill. Man United can get revenge on Sociedad, says Steve. Yeah, hopefully. Kone versus Ghana tomorrow. Let's do it. I don't think Kone is going to get any minutes, but he could come off the bench for 10 minutes, particularly if there's an injury as well. Bruno does not suit the 8 in the system, but we have little choice of injuries. That's the thing. I think Bruno, because he's our best creator and probably our best player in the final third, now Ahmad is gone, we probably need him higher up the pitch and making more influence in the final third. Continuing on, Ruben Amorim said, what I feel sometimes we don't feel improvement in the team. But then you have some games that you think are more difficult and you feel we can play, we can create situations. That is a good thing. But I think in this moment, you can see when you watch games, you can see more problems than solutions. So Ruben Amorim is saying, he's not feeling that we're improving. You get signs versus Liverpool, versus Arsenal, 2 good performances, we're improving, and then we go back on a rubbish again. So yeah, that's what he said. And I think, as I've said with Ruben Amorim, you need to get the players in for a system. Because I think his system can work. It's very different. A lot of players will have to go. A lot of players will be brought in. But I think if we get recruitment right, it can work. Morehouse is the oldest out of the bench as well. Yeah, I'd have liked Morehouse to be on the bench tomorrow, which is a shame he's not. Now, I like Kenda, but I've said this multiple times. Another 17-year-old. I still think we need more experience coming in the window. But as Romano confirmed, Kenda is on Manchester United's list. He's been on the list for weeks and months. This remains the case. In terms of the deal being done, there's nothing been said, but he's been approved by Amorim. United working on the deal. Kenda's agreed to join United. Ruben Amorim wants Kenda. United want Kenda. It's just about agreeing a fee with Sporting. Obviously, we've got ages till the summer, but I think something could be done in future. United Scout has said that Paul Pogba has been offered to Manchester United and is keen on a return, and United have discussed it internally and with some for and some against it. With injuries arriving, the people who are for bringing him back have more prevalent argument than before. So there is maybe some debates inside United about bringing Paul Pogba back. Paul Pogba will be hungry. He'll want to fight for his place. He's not got many clubs signing up for him, so it's not like he can ask for a big wage. It could be like a 6-month deal. There's potential for Paul Pogba. But, I mean, he can train in March. He can play in March, but he's only going to be up to scratch by April, and he could get injured, and you might only have him for a few games. But with all the injuries, maybe United do take the risk on Paul Pogba. I think it's one to watch, but I think United are sceptical. I think another injury, maybe we pull the trigger for Paul Pogba, but I think it depends, on injuries. I think if no one gets injured, we might not go for him, but if we do get another injury, we could. And then we just got a few other stories coming out about sort of Ratcliffe wanting to increase his stake in United and this and that, and that United's financials are in a poor position. But I just wanted to do a sort of 30-odd minute live show talking about the United news, talking about Berrada obviously coming in, implementing some changes, threatening the leaker. Kone and Chido will be in the squad versus Everton, which is good. I just hope we can see them get a 10-minute cameo, not 3 minutes. And then obviously just a little bit of news in regards to transfers. But look, I don't think Paul Pogba comes back to United, but it could be one to watch. It could be one to watch. But I'll see you guys tomorrow for a Manchester United versus Everton match reaction. I hope it's 3 points, because if we lose, I'm going to be seriously concerned, because Ipswich becomes a 6-pointer and we're Manchester United. We shouldn't be in 15th. Thank you everyone for watching. See you next time. Bye.